In this video, we're going to learn how to create a basic site plan for existing conditions of a property located in the USA from scratch using AutoCAD. We'll assume the basic knowledge of AutoCAD 2D. Open AutoCAD. The first thing we must do is to configure our AutoCAD project. Go to File and select New Drawing, then select the standard template, acadizo.dwt. Save the drawing with the desired name. Go to Format and click on Units. On Length, we will select decimals, but you can select another type from the drop-down menu depending upon your requirement. We will select a precision of 2 decimals, but you can increase or decrease this value. For angle, we will choose decimal degrees with a precision of 2 decimals. For lighting and base angle directions, we will leave the values as they are shown by default. And for insertion scale units, we're going to select inches. Click OK. Now we must add to our layout space in AutoCAD the paper space size we're going to use to create our drawing. This is something you must know before starting your project. In AutoCAD, we have 2 spaces, Layout and Model. In Model space, we draw all the elements to scale. And in Layout, we normally add elements like dimensions, title blocks, text, etc. For this example, we're going to use an 11 by 17 inches page size. We create a rectangle of that size in inches in the Layout space. We go to View and create a new viewport, which is the same size of the paper size we chose. Now we must create layers for each of the elements to be added to our site plan. We can add more layers as needed later. Now that we have our project correctly configured, we're going to look for the property we want to create the site plan for in Google Earth. We open Google Earth and look for the address. Once we find the address, we zoom in and try to get the best image possible. We have to check if the imagery available is up to date. We will trace a line using the measurement tool. We will use this measurement to scale the image later in AutoCAD. We will make a screenshot of the desired area. In Mac, we will use the Command plus Shift plus 4 and select the desired area. Now we will need to look for the property lines. This address is in Portland, Oregon. We will search on Google for the possible available information online. We'll look for the GIS interactive maps or county interactive maps for Portland, Oregon. Some cities and counties don't have a website or a source where we can easily obtain information. In this case, we were lucky, and we find several sites that probably will contain information for the creation of our drawing. This step is crucial since we always must find this initial information to be able to locate the property lines in context with the existing structures and features, unless we have surveys and other documents and information for the property. Once we find the application we will use, we'll put the address and click Search. The county maps usually have a field to put addresses. As we can see, this site has very detailed information, and we have access to assessor's details. This information may or may not be available, depending on the web application we find. We make sure we obtain a well-zoomed image showing all the property lines and surrounding elements, and we take a screenshot. Now we go to AutoCAD. We open the model space and insert the 2 screenshots we took in the previous steps. We click Insert, then Raster Image Reference, and look for the images we just created. Now we must scale the images. The dimensions shown on the county maps are in feet decimals. We must convert the values to inches, since our insertion units are inches. We must make sure that we are as accurate as possible adding the scale points to be able to obtain an accurately scaled image. Now we scale the image we obtained from Google Earth. We will use as base the line we trace, which is already in inches. Now we finally have well-scaled images that we will use to start creating our site plan. We will start creating our property line with the command Polyline. We must make sure that we correctly follow the lines since the property lines normally have angles. If necessary, deactivate ortho mode. Since the measurements shown on the county maps are in feet decimals, we must convert all the measurements to inches, which are the units we're using for the creation of this site plan. Now we make our polyline thicker. We move the line to the correct layer. We add a new line style for the property line. We will add a standard long dash dot dot line style. Now we must see how the area fits on our paper. We go to the layout space and double-click on the viewport we created before. Now we must look for a scale that correctly shows our area. For this example, we will be using an engineering scale, which is not shown by default on AutoCAD. We have to create it. We go to the bottom right of the AutoCAD screen and look for the viewport scale. We click on Edit Scale List and create our new engineering scale. We will try with 1 inch equals 10 feet, since this is a small property. Since the shape of the property fits better in landscape, we will rotate the image on the property line 90 degrees. Now we go to the model space and rotate the Google Earth image to match the orientation we gave to the other image we just rotated. And we move the property line we created on top of the Google image, which has better quality and shows more detail than the county map's image. We must make sure we find an anchor feature, point, or structure. In this case, I take the existing fence as reference. Now we select the Structures layer and begin to add all the visible structures present in the property. We can only see roof projections and the shapes that the satellite imagery allows us to see. The images are always satellite perspective images. The structures and elements we draw will be very accurate, but if required, all the measurements must be verified on site. Now we change the layer and begin to add all the other features we see present on the property, like driveway, sidewalks, and other features and elements. At this point, I will check that I'm not missing any structure or feature. For that, I will use the 3D View feature of Google Earth. Once we confirm that everything is okay, we can start adding hatches to simulate the materials of the areas we see on the satellite imagery. We only can add hatches to closed areas, so we make sure to close all the areas we want to add hatches on. We select the correct layer and add the corresponding hatch. Maybe we must add additional layers during the process of creating the site plan. We only added some standard layers at the beginning of the project. Now we're going to put some blocks for the visible trees, shrubs, and any other visible landscape elements. I have some pre-designed blocks that I will use for this project. If you don't have any pre-designed blocks, you can find free blocks and landscaping elements on the web in DWG format. We can scale the block if necessary to match the size of the existing trees and bushes. Now we will move the property line to be on top of all the layers. Now we can delete the images we've been using or simply add them to a layer and turn it off. Select the layout space. We will recheck the scale. Now we are going to configure the dimension style we're going to use for this drawing. We will click on Dimension, and we will modify the style ISO-25. We will select Modify from the drop-down menu, and then we will select Primary Units. For this project, we will use decimals with a precision of 2 decimals. We want to measure the elements we drew in inches in the model space, but we need them expressed in feet in the layout space, so we must convert the inches to feet. We do that by setting a scale factor of 0.08333. We will add a text height of 0.1 inches with an offset from the origin of 0.06 inches. We will use 0.1 inches arrows, and in lines we will configure the position and length with 0.05 lines extending from the dimension lines, and an offset of 0.05 inches from the origin. For thickness, we will put 0.05 millimeters in both the dimension lines and the extension lines. We click OK and then Close. Now we choose the correct layer, chose dimension, aligned, and we start to put the dimensions for all the elements shown on our drawing. As we can see, the measurement seems okay, but is not measuring as feet. So we click on Dimension, Dimension Style, Modify, Primary Units, and we look for suffix and add a prime symbol. Click OK and click Close. Now the prime symbol is shown on the dimension we added before and will continue showing on all following measurements we will be adding to our site plan. I'll turn off the trees layer to make it easier to see the measurement points. And I'll continue adding aligned dimensions. Since I mentioned at the beginning of this video, some elements are angled or not parallel with the property lines and cannot be measured with linear dimensions. Now we will add some labels to our site plan. We select Text. We add some text, then we move it to the correct layer, and we will try sizes to see which size works the better for our project. We edit all the labels we created based on the elements we're pointing. We make sure that our labels are in the correct layer. Now we will create a basic title block for our site plan. We can add the address and other information, and we must add a north arrow. I have some pre-designed blocks that I will use for this project. I will move them to the same layer, copy them, and I'll paste them in my project. Now I will fill the information with the details of my project. Now we will turn on the trees layer again. We will give the correct orientation to the north arrow, and now we have finished creating our site plan. We save our drawing and now we're ready to print it. We click Print. We will not use a physical printer for this video. Instead, we will be using the DWG to PDF configuration setting. We will look for the correct paper size, in this case is 11 by 17 inches, ANSIB full bleed, since our viewpoint matches the entire paper size. In What to Print, we will select Window, and we will select the entire page. Scale 1:1, 1 inch representing 1 unit. Our plot style for this example will be as displayed, and we will make a custom quality print of 100 dpi, which is a high quality value. And we click Plot. A save window will open, and we will select the folder we wish to use to save our site plan as a PDF file. In this case, I will save it on my desktop. Click Save, and our drawing will be exported as a high quality PDF. You must make sure when you print it to have set the zoom factor to 100% and correct page size, in this case 11 by 17 inches.